Hello, welcome to the stream. My name is Jinx, and this is Live Free or Die Bard. We're building a Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition campaign from scratch, homebrew, and we're doing it on Obsidian portal. If you want to visit our website and take a look, here's the address, livefreeordiebard.obsidianportal.com. You can follow along, you can look at all the stuff we've created, and eventually you can use it to run your own games. Let me pop that off here for a second. Alright, today's episode is about the meta plot and plot in general. We are, fix my feather here. We are going to create some of the major storyline for the campaign, the stuff that's going to hopefully carry us through and let us weave other subplots through it. We're going to talk about how to do that and what's going to inspire us and how we're going to make that happen. How we're going to set up our notes to make that easy to work with. Let's see, for explanations, for those who don't know, the Obsidian portal site is for campaign management. It's for keeping your notes and displaying like a showcase of your games. Your players can get on and use it. Other people can come and look at it. We're using ours specifically for keeping of the notes. And let's recap what we've done so far. Episode 1 was all about themes and concepts. And we are keeping a lot of these notes in our loose notes section of our wiki style interface. This is where we're going to draw most of the information from off of here and then organize it as we need it. Episode 2 was about player archetypes, and we made some sample player characters. These are the kinds of players that you're going to want to think about. We came up with 6. There's probably more. You can sort of add to them as you wish. Special 6-hour marathon episode. Yeah, maybe. We'll see. Might need some more coffee for the 6-hour marathon episode, but I'll try. So we've got our 6 player archetypes. We've got the actor, the escapist, the explorer, the noob, the power gamer, and the world builder. So we're going to want to be thinking about them, especially for this episode while we're writing our plot, to give them things to do in the game that they would enjoy. Because we're writing this not knowing who our players are, so we're trying to make it as universal as possible. And then if you decide to use any of these notes for your own games, can then custom tailor them to your own gaming group. That was episode 2. Episode 3 was maps. We did some general map making. We tried some new techniques, and basically the drop and draw dice technique that we used to create some randomness. And we came up with a little kingdom map here. This is the Kingdom of Calliope that we have so named it for now. And we came up with some rivers and forests and an inner sea and where we're going to put our starter town. And the starter town, we used a little online tool to create this little starter town. And this is what we've got so far. We don't have any names or labels or anything like that. We'll probably eventually do some artwork on top of this to make it fit our campaign style and whatever graphic style that we want to do. So that's our 3 episodes so far. This is episode 4. We're doing metaplot, also called overplot, and we're going to talk about what that is. So let's go back and look at our concepts and themes one more time so everybody knows where we are. The main concepts and themes are musical adventuring, battle of the bands, musical dueling, lots of humor, lots of wordplay and puns. And this is where chat's going to come in. You demand apostrophes on our town names? Okay, well, we'll get on that. Yeah. So this is the episode where if you want to participate in the chat and make suggestions, this is a good one to do that because we're going to be coming up with lots of stuff to put in, characters and things like that. So these are our concepts that we've got going on. We've already done a little bit of world building, just the basic bare bones. History follows the history of music. We start off with our tribal chants and dances, and that works up into religious type music. In our world, music and magic are intricately tied. So your, let's say your divine magic, your priestly magic is going to be lots of hymns and prayers. Your monk type spiritual magic is going to be lots of chants and things like that. Eventually, there is there's an invasion of the rock beetles was our historical moment where everything changed. Some new monsters erupted from the ground, and a new kind of mystic warfare was invented to stop them. This is where our technically rock music comes into play. They create a more powerful version of bard music, and then bards lead the way to victory in this game, to fight back the rock beetles and save the world. And then you enter the Age of Metal. This is our current age, where new technologies and sorcerer's discoveries have led to both power and danger. Current affairs, what's going on? The Killer Queen has usurped the Dancing Queen. We have created some of those characters already. Here's the Killer Queen. She's taken over. She is, as far as we know, neutral. We don't know if she's going to be a friend or foe, if the players are going to be working for her or against her. Maybe a little bit of both. We know just enough about her based on the song that she's based on to get us started. And that is one thing we're going to talk about in this episode is inspirations, where you get them and how you can roll with them and how they can do a lot of the work for you if you're willing to embrace those particular kinds of things, especially in a humor game. Other characters, she has a twisted sister who is going to be one of our main villains, if not the main villain, the corrupt sibling of the Killer Queen. We've even given her a dynamic sheet template, character sheet, to get started, because we know she's going to be kind of an epic level, high level bard, and she's going to use all kinds of cool bard things against the players at some point. She is a definite foe. We have a hero of the realm called the Loot Fox Hero, who is going to play prominently in our meta plot. The Killer Queen is played by Tim Curry. I wouldn't mind that in the movie version. Loot Fox Hero is going to be one of our main things. We're going to talk about him today a little bit, and how we are going to use the song that he's based on to determine some of his plot points. You'll notice that on some of these character portraits is a gray blank. We haven't updated those yet, so I'm going to quickly see if I can pull this up. You guys can't see my window, but I've got basically, if you want to get some quick and easy portraits, you can go to a site like Pixabay or Unsplash or any of those that have free images that you can download and alter. You don't have to give attribution for, I think, all of these on these two particular websites. I found a good bard here. I'm going to show you quickly how to do it for those of you who are brand new at image manipulation. Basically, you go to one of these sites. You're going to do you're going to download the image on Pixabay. You don't have to give attribution or anything, but on some sites they do appreciate when you do that. So we're going to download and save. I'm going to go to the save file and move it to the place where I want it, which is going to be my image file. And then I think if I've got it set up correctly, you guys will be able to see when I open this up with paint.net. Hopefully it will show up for you, and then I can show you how to manipulate a little bit. I use paint.net because it's free and I am cheap. And we'll see if we can get that up here. Yeah, I forgot to turn it on. Hang on. Okay, there it is. All right, here's paint.net. So we've got an image here for manipulation purposes. We're going to want to crop out this person in the background. They don't really fit. So I'm going to use my select my rectangle selection tool. We're going to aim it somewhere around here. I'm going to hold down the shift key to constrain a square, and then I'm going to pull it down kind of like that. That's not bad. Might actually, yeah, I kind of want to get his loot in there too. I might just scrub this guy out real fast. This is not a Photoshop tutorial kind of a thing, but we don't need it to be that fancy. Let me just get a bigger brush. There we go. When in doubt, paint it out. So what I'm doing is I'm taking the eyedropper tool to get a nearby color. I'm taking a brush tool to take that color and then paint out this offending person that I don't want behind the character. And it does not have to be perfect for our intents and purposes. We are making a homebrew game after all. And you're not going to see much of this anyway because it's going to be on a small character portrait. So you won't even worry about it. Okay, now we're going to try our rectangle select. Going to get our guy. I want to reposition that, so I'm going to use this move selection tool over on the left. Slide my selection up a little bit and get it to right about there. That looks pretty good to me. All right, now we're going to go to image, crop to selection, take out all the stuff on the edges, and now we've got a barred character here that we can use. I want to resize him so he's not quite so big. I'm going to make him about 500 by 500 pixels. It doesn't really matter for Obsidian Portal on this. You want a fairly small image anyway, but you can experiment with that. It will do some corrections for you. Goodbye, background dude. Yeah, sorry, background dude. Yeah, there's a little bit of him left, but I don't think it's going to matter too much. Okay, let's save. And then let me get out of this, and we're going to take the image. I know you guys can't see the window I've got open, but basically when we go to our character page, who would this guy work well as? Maybe Eddie the Escapist? Yeah, he wants to pretend to be somebody else. So let's go to edit. We're going to edit Eddie the Escapist. We're going to come down to the bottom where the image stuff is. And his modern eyeglasses portray an accurate time period. Sorry about the anachronism. I know. Yeah, our world is going to have a few modern conveniences here and there. All right, so we're going to click here to upload. Got my image files, and I pick the one that I want. Put them in here. It'll give me a little check mark when he's on, and then we're going to save. And then Eddie has appeared. Then we go to characters. Here's his little portrait in here. Okay, so that's how you do it if you've never done it before. It's pretty easy. I just wanted to show one off. Eventually, as I find good portraits, we can fill all of these guys in. I've actually got a good one for the Guarbarians I might do later, which are going to be some of our villains at some point encroaching from the outer edges of the kingdom. Okay, that's how you do that. Let's move on to the meta plot. Our basic plot line, we're going to focus on the characters. As you'll recall, the Killer Queen has just taken over from the Dancing Queen and deposed her for reasons that we have not yet discussed, but we can start to do that now. I think, based purely on their names, that the Dancing Queen was probably somewhat pacifist. She probably had kind of an ABBA vibe where she was real, like, kind of peaceful and everything's cool. And the Killer Queen saw that was not going to work in the future. Perhaps she perceived a threat that the Dancing Queen did not argued against her in the nobility and made no progress, so then settled on a coup. So I think that's going to be our general reasoning behind that. David Bowie. That could work. David Bowie could play quite a few people in this game, I think. Okay, so the Killer Queen's motivations. We need to write them down so that we definitely have all that kind of stuff in our notes, because after a while you're going to be writing so much that you have forgotten some of the things that you thought about. So we're going to write a little motivations sections, or motives section for her. Her motives are to secure the kingdom of Calliope. Oops, Calliope. Actually, we can do a wiki link for that. I think if we just click this little button over here, wiki link, and scroll down to Kingdom of Calliope, we can insert it, and it pops up right there. For those of you who weren't here last week, you'll get 2 entries. One of these is the text that you want to appear on your page, and the other one is the slug that identifies the actual link. So you can change this to pretty much whatever you want it to be. It will still link back to this particular slug over here. That's the same for characters and other things like that. So her motives are to secure the kingdom of Calliope, and to protect her power base. You can preview it if you want. This is generally what it will look like when it pops up. And then we go down to the bottom and save. And now we have a little motive. While we're at it, let's go ahead and do the motives. Oh, you can also type in the search field for the wiki link modal window to find pages. That's very true. That's up here. Character quick search, things like that. We're also going to do the Dancing Queen's motives. Currently, we only know that she's only 17. So we want to edit. The little edit icon is a little piece of paper with a pencil. And we're going to go down and do her motives. Motives to regain her throne that was stolen by, and then we'll put a wiki link. No, I'm sorry, character link. Character link. And then you choose which character you want, and you can view from here. Insert the Killer Queen. I think we give this a little twist. And the Killer Queen is going to be related to her somehow, because it's nobility, and they're kind of all related. Let's say her cousin. Her cousin. So I'm just changing the text side of the link there. And we'll go down to save. And we've got, okay. Now we've got her motives. To regain her throne that was stolen by her cousin. And then when you click on that, you find out her cousin is the Killer Queen. So it's pretty easy to link things throughout your page. Okay. Let's make an entry in our main wiki for the storyline. So we're editing the main page here. We're going to create a new one of these. I'm going to make it after the creation rules. You do the double brackets. The story of Live Free or Die Bard. And you just put that in there, hit save at the bottom. Your new link appears. You click on it and you're ready to edit this page. Okay, here's our story. This is where we're going to put our meta plot. Meta plot is going to be the tag. You hit tab to put it in there. And we're ready to edit. Okay. For our meta plot, we need to talk about what's happened before, what's going on presently, and what's going to happen in the future. So we'll kind of split it up into 3 sections for this particular video. Feel free to throw in suggestions, anything that you think of as we go in the chat. I will put it in there, and then for those of you who are watching this after the broadcast, we'll put it up on YouTube in about a week, and you can read about it. Otherwise, you can put it in different comment sections on YouTube. You can put suggestions in the comments on the actual page itself, on the Obsidian portal page, and I'll see what I can do. We can add them to the notes. Okay, so for our meta plot, we already know that the Killer Queen has taken over. That's recently happened. She's trying to secure her power. The Twisted Sister is trying to take the power back, so that's going to be one of our elements. And she's willing to obliterate the kingdom in the process. We need to have something about branding bards somewhere, like the Million Moms, and labeling them albums. Oh, that's a good idea. Yeah. For those of you who don't know your musical history, I think it's back in the 80s. It was Tipper Gore versus Dee Snider, I think, something like that. But anyway, that's where the mature content labeling comes from on your old physical albums that you used to buy in actual stores. But we definitely need some kind of event that is happening. Maybe that can be one of our main things that's happening right now, is there's a crackdown from the old traditionalists. Okay, let's write that. New laws are appearing. Cracking down on the freedom of bards, minstrels, and other entertainers in the realm. The religious traditionalists feel that musical magic is their domain alone, and that now that the threat of the rock Beatles is past, things should return to how they once were. Good suggestion. Okay, so we'll have some kind of some sort of a religious crusade, or that's getting ready to happen. They're the religious types who want the power back. It's spread too far. They used to control it all, perhaps, and then the genie got out of the lamp, basically, and other people now know how to do musical magic, and they're not pleased. They want to shut all that down. Maybe not all of them, but enough to cause a problem. Okay, that's a good plot point. We can use that. Branding. That's a good idea. Let's make a note of that here. How about some magical branding to identify rebels? So we're just doing our loose notes right now. We will clean this up as we go, as things come together. Don't worry about making it look perfect on your first try when you're making your own notes. Just get everything down on either notebook paper or on a website, or however you keep your notes. Do that, get it down, and then use it later, clean it up later for display purposes. That's a good start. The bards who are not directly tied to the church and perform liturgical works are branded as heretics, and are not killed but literally branded with some sort of advisory. It must be made to carry the mark. Yes. See, it kind of writes itself. That's good. Okay. So we've got, that's a good plot point to start with. That's going on. We will have to figure out a couple of things. Let me go ahead and create this page so we can see what it looks like. Yep. And then it will appear on your wiki like this. The story so far. We got that, and we'll make this nice and readable as we go. Okay, so one of the things you're going to want to ask yourself for meta plot elements like this one is you've got sort of a progression of time that's going to happen. At some point, the PCs get dropped into the middle of whatever your story is. That's the goal anyway. You want them to be exposed to your world, plopped right down in the middle of things. What are they going to do? They're completely free. They can make all kinds of changes, and you have to account for that. So what you need to ask yourself is, what happens if the PCs don't intervene, if they weren't there at all, or if they failed completely? That's one of the big things. So in our particular, in this particular case, where the religious zealots, who are going to be some of our foes, we'll have to figure out some cool names. If anybody's got any musical pun names for a church of something, some kind of dark bishop kind of character we could do, or a group of characters we could use that. So if the PCs did nothing, let's say that these people eventually succeed, they pass all the laws that they want to pass, they take over the kingdom for a what do you call it when the clergy rules? Theocracy. They establish a theocracy, they take over, they take back all the power, they outlaw magic that isn't theirs, and they drive people out, or eventually turn to violence, perhaps. So that's what happens if the PCs don't intervene. So one of the things that we're going to want them to do as PCs is join a side. In a typical game, your player characters will probably play heroic protagonists. For more advanced GMs, you can experiment a little bit and let them play bad guys if you want. That's also acceptable. For this one, we're going to assume that they're going to oppose this religious crackdown on magic. So let's go into our notes, our loose notes, and let's add to our history a little bit now that we know some of the current affairs. We're going to edit our loose notes. Musical magic. Okay, in this classical period, I think we're going to have the church gained tremendous, I can't spell, tremendous power at this time. Age of Metal is the church seeks to regain its former glory. Okay. So we've got some name suggestions for people we haven't used yet. We'll keep those in mind. We've got some region ideas. A series of fortified border keeps in our places. We need something for groups also, organizations. So let's put that in between places and people. Let's do, I want to make it bold, so we do an asterisk. Organizations. And we have something like Tipper Gore got the ball rolling on the labeling. Maybe we can have a Bishop Tipper, Bishop Gore. Ooh, Bishop Gore sounds brutal. Seems unfair not to involve Tipper, though. We'll put that down in our notes. We'll see if we can make that work. The traditionalist church. That could be something like Church of Chance. I think a good band names it would fit. Black Sabbath is it's a little too dark. Sure, we can come up with something. I've got a handful of notes of funny names that I wrote already. Let's put in here in our notes Tipper, Bishop Gore, and we need some apostrophes to satisfy Digital Prophet. Okay, so we're going to have a traditionalist church. It's going to be one of our bad guys as an organization. It's going to have some people who are trying to pass this branding law, and of course the kingdom is divided somewhat because there's been a recent coup. So perhaps what's happening right now is apostrophes equal quality. In a fantasy game, I think you're right. The more apostrophes, better off you are. Oh, yes. Okay, so Tipper is an advisor to the Killer Queen. So she's one of the nobility. Or he, I guess, whatever. We'll make it a her. They're helping the church facilitate the passage of laws. That's a good idea. Okay. Let's put that in the wiki for now. And I was already there, but okay. And then we'll make her a character later on. Equals Killer Queen's advisor. Maybe like an emissary from the church or something like that. Slash church emissary. And then, yeah, so she'll be whispering at the queen's ear and trying to get things changed for the better. And the queen has well, let's say that no one knows what the queen's up to right now. She's too far removed from our low-level party who's starting at level 1. Yeah, we do need to start thinking about where we're going to place them in the midst of this fun. We know we've got our little starter town, which we haven't named yet. This is generally what it looks like. So we know that they're going to be here. We don't have a reason for them to be here yet. We can force them to make up a reason when they make their characters. We can give them a couple of hooks to make sure that they get here. But let's say that they get to their starter town, they're in the midst of this, and we will start describing that indeed they are starting to see some people who have been branded with this magical brand. Maybe it's not painful necessarily like a real brand if you don't want it to be, but it could be maybe it suppresses your magic or does something along those lines. Causes you discomfort when you attempt to use magic, something like that. And then we could make it basically that the church has taken over this particular region politically and made it such that it is dangerous for free musicians who are not part of the religious order, as it were. So that's a good start. Okay. So let's start putting together Adventure 1 just to get some notes down so I can show you what my idea was here. This is your adventure log. In a typical game, you would use this for after action reports of your games. Either the GM or one or several of the players would create posts to make these kind of things. Let me show you what I got so far. This is just a guide of how we're going to lay it out. We're going to use this instead as where we put our adventures. So if you want to run a campaign using this particular site, you can just use these as your adventures. So this is where you'll keep your notes, and you can play straight off of here, essentially. So you have things like, I'll let you guys log into the site and read this on your own. I won't read the whole thing for you, but basically we'll put a title. This is the general format. Something in bold with quotes is something you would read out loud. So for this section, you would read this little section, and then you'd have a little character who has something. We would link to a character so that you could have access to that and bring up his window if you needed to. He would read his little text in the game after you've read the intro. It's dangerous to go alone. Take this. And then what he does, and then some notes for the GM. So that's the general gist of what we're going with our adventure log. So what we'll do is create a new post. This is where we're going to store our notes for our starter adventure, our beginning. And we're going to call this Act 1. Chapter 1. And then for right now, we're going to call this Getting the Band Together. We could use that as the subtitle. Yeah, let's do that instead. Chapter 1, Adventure 1, Getting the Band Together. Okay. So we're going to keep our loose notes here, and then as we as we continue writing, we'll clean them up and make them serviceable so that eventually you can run a game straight off of here without too much trouble. So we know they're getting together in the starter town. We know that they're going to be seeing evidence of this magical branding. So let's go ahead and make notes of that now. So we've got the starter town is our scene. I'm going to make that, let's say, an H3. And we'll make it bold. And I think pluses were underlined. Yeah. And then stuff that they're going to see is going to be what's in the starter town. Religious, if I can spell it correctly, zealots, preaching, traditional magic, and magically branded outcasts in dire need of help. We can turn this into a list if we want to. There's a little bullet point thing here. It's basically put an asterisk in a space and it'll turn it into bullet points. And then when you're done with it, it should look something like that. So here's what they're going to find in the starter town. Again, this is our loose notes for right now. These are all rough draft kind of things. When we turn this into an actual starter adventure, we'll have it laid out a little more easy to read for the GM so that they can just pick it up and go. You can create nested lists with the use of multiple bullet points on a single line. Good to know. So that's a good start. We know a little bit about what they're going to see when they first get to their starter town. So we've got a little bit of our meta plot. We've got a little bit of our Adventure 1 going. And that's a good start. Again, a lot of people go about this process in different ways. We talked about last time about big picture, little picture. You either start by making the whole world and then slowly refining it to make it to get down to smaller and smaller details, or you start really small just with your starter area and then work your way out as you need to. There are advantages to both, whatever works for you. We're doing kind of all over the place. I want to show you little bits of everything, so we're going to, as we have ideas, put stuff where we need it to go and then clean it up later. It's a little messy, but it'll work. Okay, so we talked a little bit about what happens if the PCs do nothing. So if the PCs weren't going to be part of this game, eventually the religious folks would take over and ruin the kingdom. They would turn it back into a sort of a hegemony of zealots who they're the only ones who have any kind of control over magic, and in general that would be a bad thing for most folks except for the elites. Let's assume that the PCs intervene through the course of the meta plot. They will have to take on the church, probably in several different arenas, probably several different kinds of opponents that they will have to face. Maybe some legal battles, maybe some actual warfare is going on, all that kind of stuff. So that's the kind of thing that you want to have in mind when you're thinking about your meta plot. Is generally like what happens if they mess up or if they don't show up to save the day. What goes down? You're going to want to think about timeline on this. Do you want to have your campaign really freeform, that there's no time pressure at all on the players, or do you want there to be something like a ticking clock where they only have a certain amount of time to get something done, so you can put pressure on them to move the plot forward? I would say for this particular game, we're going to have a little bit of timeline stuff in there, but I don't really care for hard timelines because I think it forces PCs to do stuff that they don't necessarily want to do, and we want to give them a little bit of freedom, but at the same time we don't want to give them absolute, complete control and say, if you don't do anything, everything's going to be fine. We do want to have that ever-present pressure behind them, which is why I think we will eventually have a sort of a timeline on. We mentioned the epic battle of the bands eventually that we're going to have. So that's going to be a thing. For our starter town, while we're thinking about meta plot, I had another thought. I think it would be good to start thinking about what we know about the starter town. Let's talk about inspiration. I get inspiration from some of the images that I use, even if I haven't chosen the image specifically for an inspiring kind of thing. Sometimes you just look at it and you're like, what's this all about? Basically, you're going to want to, whatever you get inspiration from, you just apply a little logic to it, and then you end up with something that seems plausible, which is something that you do need even in a fantasy game. So we have our little map here that we generated last week. There's a lot of walls for a little town. I don't really know why they would need that many walls unless they're facing some kind of a problem. Let's look at where the little starter town is on our kingdom map here. They're kind of well within our kingdom's borders, except for this whatever's on the other side over here. So we could have that they're afraid of invaders from another country. We could have that they're afraid of perhaps some local monsters. Maybe something fairly easy to fight for a low-level party. I think that's probably what we'll think about, is some sort of like, why are these walls here? The other thing that we want to think about with our starter town is they're kind of packed in here. They do have some farmland. So I think we can maybe work a little bit on what's in our starter town. So let me pull up my maps. And let's just work straight on the map. Okay. Make sure you guys can see this okay. Yep. Alright, so here's our paint.net map so we can work on it. First thing I want to do is get rid of the randomly generated title. I think we can just go in here and wipe that out. Okay. We're going to eventually draw our own kind of thing. Yeah, it could have been built on an older site too. That's a good idea. So maybe there was good foundations, and they just kept the walls up as they went to prevent monster attacks or whatever. Because they're not really protected from the sea. I think we're going to go with some kind of a land force that's out there. But they do have their farmland outside that we can work with. So I say we give them some, we start describing what they grow. And I think it's time for some musical puns. We've been broadcasting for almost an hour and we haven't had too many musical puns yet. So, hey, thanks for the subscription, Paterius. Welcome to the channel. We just got our affiliate status set up, so anyone who wants to subscribe, feel free. We would really appreciate the support. Farmland. Let's see. I had a couple of puns. I think that what they would grow here would be, let's come up with a slightly bigger font than that. Let's go for 48. Okay. I probably have one of these. Okay. Oh, for some reason it's not showing up. Maybe if I make a new layer. That's very odd. There it goes. I must have had a selection selected. I think they grow Holland oats here in some of these areas. Again, if anybody has any funny musical puns that they would like to add to our starter map, this is our starter town. If you could come up with a cool name for a good starter town. So they grow some Holland oats here. I think, what are their other specialties? Probably red hot chili peppers. That makes sense. Red hot chili peppers. And could probably come up with something else too, right? Parsley, sage, rosemary, and thyme. Okay. Weedus. That's good. I'm going to use that one. Corn. Obvious. I should have come up with that. Probably need more than one cornfield. I like to think all the corn farmers have dreadlocks. All right. So that's kind of what we're going for is give it some. We want the players in their starting area to immediately get the idea of what the game's about. So if we're running a humor game with lots of musical puns, we want to show them instantly on first description of the town as they enter it. You pass all these things. Here's what you see. You see fields of corn with a K, and you see fields of Holland oats, and they obviously grow that kind of stuff here. So they get that right out of the gate. And then as they go in, of course, they will meet people. Maybe we can use famous singer names. I was thinking the mayor could be somebody like Petty Tom. So we will add that to our notes here in a moment. Okay. Merge layer down. I'm going to add Petty Tom to our characters right now while I'm thinking about it. For those of you who have not seen how this works before, you go to your characters tab on your site. Oh, let me make that go away. You go to the characters tab on your Obsidian portal site. There's a little plus button up here on the top. Click on that, then you go down and you make characters. Paradise City. There it is. Okay. Yeah, Mayor Petty Tom. Give him an apostrophe. And let's see, quick description. Sleepy-eyed. Laid back singer. Maybe put some quotes around singer. All right, and we can add some more material for him later, but that's good for now. Let's create him. Whoops. Slug must either be empty or start with a character containing only characters, numbers, and dashes. Okay, so, sorry. We're going to have to take out the apostrophe on the slug. Let's see if it'll let us do it now. Create. And he certainly won't back down. There we go. Petty Tom. All right, and now he will show up in our NPCs. And there he is. We'll have to find a good picture for him later that is copyright friendly. Okay, let's go back to where we were, which was our map work. He stands his ground. Okay, so for our map work, we need a place where the mayor would reside. We obviously have some sort of a keep up here. So it looks fairly small. Most of these buildings are pretty small. We want the church to have a presence also. So maybe we can make the real power in this town the church. And we'll make this some kind of like the temple keep. Something like that. So let's add that in here. Temple keep. And then the mayor's house can be down here. Mayor's mansion. Alright, and then you have obviously some kind of a town square with maybe a well. You have some docks over here. We'll get the wall with some towers. Some outbuildings, probably where the farmers live. So some of this is self-explanatory. And we can, of course, make this map a little more to our liking as we need it, but this is a good start for now. So let's update our map on the site now that we've got this. Let's save it. And then close that. And then back on the site, we'll go to Maps. And we'll edit our starter town map. And put it in here. Okay. And then save it, and it'll process it. It'll take it a couple minutes because it has to create tiles so that you can zoom in and out. So while that's updating, yep, you won't see it yet. It will come up in a few minutes. Let's go add some of the information we've created to our wiki. We've got the Kingdom of Calliope, which we already have. I want to make a section on here for cities. So we're going to do the double brackets. Cities, towns, and villages. Alright, and then click in here. It's our new wiki page, and we're going to start nesting some things to keep it nice and organized. I believe Paradise City was suggested. I think we'll use that. Thank you, Cyber Abyss. Paradise City. I'll make a new entry. We know this is a fairly small town, so we'll give a brief description. A cramped town on the seaside, surrounded by walls. Ancient walls. Ancient walls. Okay. And we'll create. And then we'll go into here and we'll put what we know so far about Paradise City. Again, you're just getting information down. Yeah, it is. The mayor is, we're going to make our character link now that we have character. Here he is, Mayor Petty Tom. Insert. There's our slug that doesn't have the apostrophe, but the apostrophe appears here. So we don't want to have mayor twice, so I'm going to make the text just say Petty Tom. So the mayor's Petty Tom. You could have things like the population. For right now, we'll call it, it's a fairly small town, so we'll call it 250. I may look in the DMG later and see if they have a layout of how many people occupy towns. The player characters born in a small town, live in a small town, probably die in this small town. They have big city dreams, though, so at least some of them do. Let's see, what else did we decide already? We already know the crops that'll be on the map. We don't have to put that in here necessarily. We do want to put in our notes something to the effect of what do we call it? The Temple Castle, Temple Keep. The Lord Bishop of the Temple Keep has great power. Okay, so we got that. And okay, let's create that, and then I'll show you what that looks like. All right, so we've got Paradise City is our starter town now. I'll have to rename that. Okay, so the way we'll organize it in our main page is basically you'll go to the kingdom, click on the kingdom. In the kingdom will be their list of cities, towns, and villages. Inside here you'll have a list of all these that the players and whatnot will eventually go to that you want to have information for. You click on Paradise City, and it'll have this kind of thing. We'll have links to other information that you can get to from here. And if you need to see what Petty Tom's all about, you go right there. Pretty easy. So as long as you, as you're taking your notes, you keep your loose notes in one place, and then as you find spots for them, you take them from the loose notes section, you stick them in where you need them, and that's what you got. Okay, let's come up with a couple other world building kind of things. Oh, let's see if my map is loaded. Yep, there it is. Okay, so now we know what our starter town is. We can edit the name of that one. Let's go in here. You can zoom out a little bit. Yeah, when you're zoomed in, so we could put some very small text down here for the super zoomed in stuff, and then the big text we'll keep for the bigger kind of items. You can also do map markers and things like that. If you want to just use those, these are movable, however you need them to be. This is Iron Man's smithy, by the way. Some say he's traveled through time and lost his mind. We want to edit the name, Paradise City, and save, and there you go. Alright, so that's set. Let's do a little more world building. Let's see, we talked about the magic history a little bit. We've touched on some of that, so let's go into our loose notes about our history. This is all we have so far. There's not much in a way of history. Eventually we'll have probably a whole section that outlines it for the people who are interested in that kind of thing. But basically it will follow general music history, except in our world, music and magic are tied together. So you'll start off with the old stuff. Religious music will be a big section of the classical period, and then you'll have uprisings and strange stuff. Rock music is eventually born, pop music with it. You end up with the age of metal. We don't necessarily have widespread electricity in our world. Maybe just a little touch of it here and there, and it's more like magic than anything else. So we can account for electrical instruments. And that's the general idea. So we want to fill in a couple more details about that. What I would do in this situation is take a look at your classes in your player's handbook. If you're brand new to Dungeons and Dragons or don't know that much about 5th edition, your classes are it's sort of your job in the role-playing game as a character. So let's talk about some of the magical classes that we have. Bard, obviously, is the musical magic class. That's the big one. We're going to have lots of cool stuff for them to do. So their magic is already based on music according to the rules. So that's already done for us. We're skipping grunge. Well, I was thinking about it. Flannel doesn't... We could have some kind of like Scottish Highlander kilt flannel, but I don't know how else you would fit in grunge. Maybe they could be some kind of like strange creatures or something like that. Like the grunge lords of the Northwest or something. Let's see. Okay, so Bardic magic is already in the rules, kind of set up that way. Let's talk about clerical magic and paladin magic, some of the divine magic you've got going on. Well, we just established that the church is a power to be reckoned with. Maybe there's some factions within the church, some that think the new way is the best way, some that think that the old ways are the best way. So we could use that to our advantage. But clerical magic will definitely come from things that you think about when you think about music in a church. So you're going to have things like hymns and prayers and chanting. That's generally going to be what their magic feels like. That's going to be the style of their magic, is traditional. You do it one way, the same way every time. In the regular game of Dungeons and Dragons, divine magic comes from the gods themselves. Our gods are going to be, we'll make some homebrew pantheon deities kind of later on. Maybe some demigods like muses and stuff like that we could incorporate into there too. But I think that's the feel that we're going for, is the for the divine clerical paladin kind of music. And of course paladins will be a little more rock and roll, a little more power ballad kind of people, I think. Yeah. Sorry, Jim. You'll have to watch the video afterwards. But I know you're musically inclined, and you could definitely help in this process. Let's see. What do they got? We have druids. Druids have a kind of a nature magic, and to an extent, rangers I think do too. The nature magic in this situation, in this scenario, and in this world, I think would probably be a little more folk music and kind of hippie 60s kind of stuff. That's what it feels like to me. They do in fact slay shiny demons with the greatest song in the world. Unfortunately, this is just a tribute, and we don't remember the greatest song in the world. It was lost to time, and after the epic battle. So druid magic, nature magic, I think it's going to feel like hippie folk stuff, that kind of thing. Maybe a little bit of music of the people kind of stuff. So that's what that's going to feel like. You're going to end up with a lot of barefoot dancing in the woods, and lots of wearing crystals and braids with flowers in them and stuff like that. That's the feeling that I'm going with there, until you get to one of the later ages, because I think at that point you would end up with, if you think in terms of musical genres, like a sort of a Viking death metal kind of a thing, where there's some nature in there a little bit, but it's, it's a little more like bone and blood kind of nature. So that's your nature magic. Monks. Monks in the traditional D&D game have sort of a spiritual chi energy martial arts kind of stuff going on. It's not exactly magic, but it's definitely supernatural. And I think you could definitely do something like prayer chanting and reciting of poetry and stuff like that. I think would work really well for the monk magic in terms of style. So that's the style that we're going for there. And then you have sorcerer, warlocks, and wizards, which could be different versions of more modern kind of stuff. So warlocks is easy. That's like, in this game, you're making pacts with dark forces to get power. And I think the patrons. And so in this one, you have, it would be that's some pretty metal kind of a theme right there. Eye of the Tiger should be the default monk theme. That'd be good. Maybe we could put some music on the site. Yeah. That'd be really good. So warlocks are going to be easy. They're going to be brutal, kind of hardcore stuff. Sorcerer and wizards are a little more what you would think of as traditional magic. So that could be... they could sort of pick a genre of music that they would be into. And basically, like, instead of choosing specialties of magic, whatever their specialty is, we can come up with a musical genre that goes with that. And that could be part of their thing. Dancing, of course, can also be incorporated into all of these musical things. It doesn't have to be just singing and playing. You can do all that kind of stuff too. This is more for a style thing. We're not going to change the rules overly much to unbalance the game completely, just because that's a lot of work. And this is for beginning GMs need to have access to this stuff too, so we're not going to change too much. We'll write a couple of homebrew rules so that you can see how it's done as we go, but in general, we're going to stick to the basic book stuff for now. In terms of equipment and style, musical instruments, will open up some more musical instruments. In this game, I'm all about using musical instruments as your weapons. They can be both at the same time. Guitars or axes, that kind of stuff. So we'll come up with some cool ways to do that. I think that'd be kind of neat. Okay. But that's generally the idea we're going for with magical style. So for a magic history, we're going to expand a little bit on what we have here based on those ideas. So the era of chance, we're going to expand this a little more. Magic was discovered by early songmakers, codified with religions. Cults grew into cultures and churches, which were gifted powers from the heavens. Prayers became reality through divine magic. The classical period. I was envisioning the classical period to be something like sort of the Renaissance era, sort of, if you think about classical music, sort of that Baroque kind of a thing they've got going on. Oh, the blue oyster cult. Oh, that's good. I'll put that in there. Cults. Blue oyster cult. Good suggestion. Ooh, Song Forgers. That's a cool name. That could be an interesting concept of, yeah, like you're stealing other people's magic, like copying it. Yeah, I could get into the whole copyright situation. Yeah, that's good. I like that. Okay, we'll come up with a way to put that in too. Where were we? Okay, classical period. Yeah. So yeah, I was thinking like a sort of a Venice, Italy kind of a vibe to it. So you have lots of harpsichord and kind of stuff like that. So rewrite the whole magic rules. Yeah, well, that's kind of where we're on the cusp of that anyway. Bite the head off a bat to cast a ritual spell. Yeah, the Church of the Black Sabbath probably definitely does that. It's part of their material components. I'll actually add that down here and just Church of the Black Sabbath combines new magic with old, bites the heads off bats, question mark. Okay, all right, so let's see, civilizations grew, find themselves by musical magic. So yeah, your different kingdoms will probably have different styles of stuff. So I'm thinking of other kingdoms. Our kingdom is called the Kingdom of Calliope, so it's going to be sort of a mix of a lot of things. So Kingdom of Calliope is a mix of genres. It's got a lot of everything, but some of the other ones ended up a little more specialized, I would say. Yeah, Prince Osborne. That's good. I'm gonna put down here too. Yeah, as soon as you get these notes, like as soon as you get these ideas when you're coming up with your own games, write them down immediately so you don't lose them. Keep a notebook by the side of your bed, whatever you need to do. Prince Osborne. That's good. Fresh Prince Osborne. Let's see. Where were we? Okay, so Calliope, Kingdom of Calliope is a mix of genres. That way, kind of the melting pot in between other kingdoms, since it's sort of not really landlocked, but close enough to it. It's surrounded by other kingdoms. I think we should have the Sultans of Swing. Could be on one side, and we can give them a Middle Eastern vibe. Let's see. Man, you could really go crazy with some of the stuff. I'm thinking you could go nuts with like K-pop and all kinds. There's a lot of material there. Oops, I lost my light cover. My very advanced light cover, which is a piece of paper wrapped around a light. So that's the general idea. 6-hour marathon stream. Well, what are we, like an hour and a half in or something? We're partway there. Okay, so that's a good start there. At some point we had well, we may end up doing some other shows later on, Jim Rockford, as necessary to get it going on. We'll stick to our regular schedule, but we may add some other shows later on, especially when we start. I would love to play test the game at some point with actual players and see what we need to add and change. So that might be something that we could do at a later time. What else is in our history that we've got going on? You have the Folk Uprising. I think this is where you'll end up with some of your druid magic and your nature magic. The common people rebelled against their feudal lords with strength of numbers and humble spells. Nature magic. Let's call it natural magic. Was rediscovered, having been suppressed. Nope, I'm wrong. There's not enough P's. There you go. Suppressed by the church for centuries. The uprising was eventually quelled after many wars. Building an amazing hat 101, that will take longer than 6 hours. This particular one, I think was almost a 10-hour process because I'm not good at sewing. But yeah, I do have a separate webcam, so we can definitely do some prop making for games. That'll be an episode later on. Once we have some props to make, I think that'd be kind of cool. My primary medium is cardboard, so we'll see how we go with that. What else can we add? The invasion of the rock beetles. This is sort of the turning point in the history of our world. I don't have rules for what the rock beetles are yet. We can make them up later on. We might have them show up at some point. Like maybe there's remnants of them here and there, and they're a deadly, horrific plague that must not be allowed to ever return to the world. But this is our sort of our crucial moment where everything changed. The church gave up control so that new magic could be invented. New monsters erupted from the ground, and a new kind of mystic warfare was invented to stop them. Bards, sorcerers, warlocks, wizards, and monks all joined together to push back the tide of destruction. The church added its strength with crusades, led by holy paladins. Okay, so we can expand on that kind of stuff later on because we're getting into more recent history. The rock beetles invasion might not have been within living memory, but it would have been fairly close. There would still be evidence of it here and there, great battlefields, destroyed cities for characters to explore, that kind of thing. That's a decent idea to build on just from that. The Age of Metal, the current age, this is when everybody has access to magic now. We've got some new technologies. They probably started to dabble in black powder just a little bit, mostly for pyrotechnic shows, stuff like that. You have rock music is king still. You have lots of different genres and subgenres of music that have taken over. Wandering bands. Let's put that in here. Wandering bands of warrior entertainers travel the lands seeking their fortune. And thus our players enter into the game. They will be forming one of these wandering bands, traveling band, travelers. Part of what they will do in our starter town in Paradise City is to come up with a reason why they're together. They're trying, hopefully with our overplot, to somehow get involved in this epic battle of the bands that we're eventually going to have. I'm thinking it's going to be something like you have to win a certain number of local competitions in order to qualify for the semifinals and so on to get all the way in there. So maybe they are trying to get good, as it were. And that's one of the reasons that they might form together. The kinds of roles that they could play in the band, if they're not necessarily bards or musicians of any kind, is they could be backup dancers. They could do other kinds of performances like acrobatics or some kind of high wire act. If you had like a monk, lots of acrobatics. You could be a promoter. You could be a roadie. You could be security. All kinds of stuff. So even if you don't necessarily have all of your party members having a role in whatever the performance aspect of this wandering band kind of thing is, maybe even one of them is, and the rest of them are just support for that one. You still have a reason for them to be on the road traveling and getting into shenanigans as a band would. Let's say current affairs. Killer Queen has usurped the Dancing Queen, but her ascendancy is fresh. The authority is still in question. The church is pressing for more draconian laws against let's make that in quotes, non-traditional magic, going so far as to brand heretics. Yeah, heretics. And take away their musical spellcasting abilities. Maybe that can be part of our plot too, is figuring out how they're doing that with some sort of magic marking, some sort of rune or something, whatever it is that they're putting on there. That's the parental guidance sticker on the CD. So they're making it worse for everybody. Okay, that's a good start. Let's save that. You'll notice I have outlining set up over here on the side. This is just a little, gives you a little table of contents. You can turn that off if you don't want that over there in your edit section. Yeah, she's trying to head off another folk uprising. Maybe that could be. Maybe that's maybe they're worried about that. The last one was not easy to quell, so the current administration is working, both the church and the oops, I need to change my font size there. The church and the government are working to make sure that another uprising does not occur. Let's put a space. That should do it. Yep, there we go. Now we're good. Okay, save. Alright, let's add that to our character section and the motivations of the Killer Queen. Secure the kingdom, protect her power base. Her fears of another folk uprising are being spurred on by the church. And when we have a wiki entry for the church or for whatever character it is that we want to represent that, we can link that in there. Okay. So she's concerned about another folk uprising because it's basically uncontrolled chaos in a time when she needs the kingdom to be strong. Sort of basic logic there. Alright, that's pretty good. Alright, let's see. Oh, I did want to add a couple. I had a couple more ideas I wanted to throw in while I'm thinking about them. And our loose notes in our history. We're going to add in to the folk uprising. The last great battle of the folk uprising battle was known as the Clash. So that's pretty good. Oh, the some of the holy paladins. This might be the Knights of Sidon. named after the Knights of Sidonia, but not the Knights of Sidonia. What else could we do? I have a big list of pun names. I'm just going down the list and seeing what we could do. Oh, I have another idea. Hang on. This is something we need to make an entry for. Let's go back to our wiki. I want to make a bestiary page. Bestiary. So we can put in, ooh, the Neon Knights. That's a good idea too. Let me do this real quick, then I'll come back. Okay, for our bestiary, we have, we already know we need one for the rock beetles. I also wanted to do one for the Ungrateful Dead, which are going to be our undead in this game. I'm sure we can come up with lots more as we go. How about deaf leopards? Is that how you spell that? No. Oh, yeah. Leopards. Deaf leopards, rock beetles, ungrateful dead. I don't have any ideas yet for what these are going to be. Oh, knights in white satin. That's good. The zombies. Yes. Let's see. That'll be. The zombies. Okay. Yeah, if anybody else has any ideas for the monsters in the game that are musical puns, feel free. We will add them now, and then I'll do a whole episode on how to homebrew monsters later on down the road, because that's pretty fun too. Okay, that's a good start. Create. There you go. Okay, and then you would click on one of these to update an entry. I'm not going to do that right now because I don't have anything to add yet. But we can use that as our bestiary. So generally for organization purposes on your main page on your wiki, I would suggest a little bit of history, a little bit of like where they are, place knowledge, any kind of homebrew rules that you have. Like our character creation rules are going to be specific. We're going to have some homebrew magic rules later on. Bestiary, that kind of stuff. Ooh, Werewolves of London. Werewolves of London. That's good too. Let's add that. I'll spell it differently. Because it's fantasy world. Maybe in this world they destroy London. It's not there anymore. Okay. There's our bestiary. Okay, we got to start on that. Let's see. We need some more. Oh, I thought of something for monks. Let me go back and do that while I'm thinking about it. A lot of the world building stuff that you're going to do is going to be just like a random idea that you have and you kind of tuck it in there somewhere. I'm going to add this organization. Yeah. So we need something for monks. I was thinking of a couple monk orders that would fit into our musical world. think you're going to have Foo Fighters. Is a order of monks, and the Wu-Tang Clan. I'll call them Clan Wu Ta'ang. It's an order of monks. Felonious monks. Let's keep it alphabetical. How do you spell felonious? Yes. Order of monks. We can come up with fun things. Skeletons of Society. I don't know that one. But I'll put it in there. We'll look them up later. Okay. That's a good spot there. Let's go back to the bestiary. And Skeletons of Society. There we go. Did I miss any? Oh yeah, some of our knights. Neon Knights and Knights in White Satin. Yardbirds. Yardbirds are easy, yeah. It's one of the classics. Yardbirds. Let's go back to our organization. So eventually we are going to need a whole organization section. So I might just go ahead and make that now since we're starting to expand. Once you get kind of a critical mass of things going on, you're going to want to make sure they have their own entry. Okay, save. Some death metal. Okay, let's go back to our notes real quick and make sure I've got all the organizations figured out. Let's see. Okay, so Blue Oyster Cult. I'm gonna open up a second page, I think. We have all separate things. Okay. Alright, let's just make a big old list. Blue Oyster Cult. Dragon Force, oh yeah. That's a good one. They're really fast. Let's see, classic period. Sultans of Swing. Yeah, we'll add them. They're more of a government, but that works. Sultans of Swing. Knights of Sidon. And you can, of course, come back in later on and rearrange things as necessary if you want to do further organization, split things up into like different kingdoms or whatever. It's something that's pretty easy. Church of the Black Sabbath. Do that one. Church of the Black Sabbath. He does. Paterius is rocking on this one. Let's see. Thelonious Monks, Foo Fighters, and Clan Wu-Tang. Monks. Clan Wu-Tang. And Foo Fighters. Okay. I might change the spelling on this one too, just for fun. You don't have to necessarily. Parody is protected under copyright law, so it's cool. Let's create the page. And then we had Knights in White Satin and Neon Knights. Let me add them. Here we go. Knights in White Satin. Neon Knights. The king who is named BB. That's good. King of the Blues. Somehow we'll have an organization of some kind called the Blues, and he's the king of that. Yes, you can use the top bar search field to move around your campaign pages. It's useful when it starts to get bigger and you start to forget where stuff is. You can just use that little search bar. Makes it quite easy. Alright, let's see, what else can we... Okay, so here's our organizations page. I'll go in and start filling these out as we get more details for them. Sometimes all you need is a name to start with. You can fill it in as you need it later on. Let's see what else we have. I wanted to do something else on maps. I was thinking for something local. If we had a little section where there was a strait, we could do the Dire Straits. I'll save that for when I'm making the map a little cooler. But I think in our starter town, so this was the Iron Man forge. Might do a little more work on the starter town while we're thinking about it. Let me bring this back up. Okay, here's our starter town again. So we can go in a little smaller. As you saw on the map page, you can get in pretty tight in here. Let me come down and find a good font size. It's probably about good with the 12. Might make it a 14. So there's a well. Let's back out a bit. So we have one area that we had our map marker that was the Iron Man's forge, Iron Man's armory. I think we could have a couple other places like Alice the Cooper. You could have. You could do Aerosmith, the Smithy, Aerosmithy. That might work. Like, you don't want to use all of your best ideas in your one town because they are going to travel a little bit. So we'll keep a few of these. Let's see. I had one other one. What was some of the other ones? Let's see for this charter. Yeah, they're going to need at some point a base of operations in their starter town. Usually in a typical D&D game. Aerosmith. Oh, that's better. I like that. We're going to add that. Aerosmith. Okay. So he's going to be in... Let's figure out an area that's going to be kind of the market row here. Probably one of these coming straight through the gates. I'm thinking this is going to be an area. Let's just put it on this map for now. So the Aerosmith is the Fletcher. Put him right over here. Actually, I think I'll just use the map marker. That might be faster. Let me put this away. Hang on. Fade that. Yeah, let's do a map marker. Edit. Add map markers. Some of our general markers. So we'll do another craftsman. Let's give him a different color though. I think of arrows as like a green color, so let's do like a dark green. Turn it into that. We'll call it Aerosmith. And Aerosmith's fine Fletcher Shoppy. I've been told that Shoppy is historically inaccurate, that it was just made up kind of a thing. Okay, let's put him over here somewhere. This looks good to me. Okay. Got Aerosmith's fine Fletcher shop. And this is Iron Man's smithy. I'm going to edit this to say smithy. And save that. And save. So now when we look at our map, yep, our markers stay put, and this is generally where we have stuff. Okay, so we have a couple of those. I think Alice Cooper would be another good one to put in, so let's add another shop. We'll make a Cooper. Cooper looks brown to me. Let's do brown. Alice Cooper. And put him here on the corner. So that's the general idea with the map markers, is just kind of use what you need. You can stick wiki links and stuff in the edits so that you can click on things. Like if we have a thing later on for Alice, you can put a link in there. You can go right to him. That's a pretty good start so far. So what else are they going to see when they get here? When they arrive in the town? I'm thinking maybe let's do one more character. We've got a little bit of time left. Let's make another non-player character. This guy is going to be, let's call him Rim. Berry Buck. Yeah, that's good. Rim, Berry Buck. He's gonna be kind of a rambling Maryland's Mansion. I like that. Rim Berry Buck is gonna be the town crazy. Bald. Crazy man who preaches, let's say who rants about the end of the world as we know it. Let's see if that fits in there well. And in his biography, he will have former cleric who lost his religion. What else could you do? Sometimes swims at night. Rio could have a very fast wagon. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, we can fill up this whole starter town with pun people. I think that'd be good. Okay, that's pretty good for now for him. So let's make Rim. Create Rim Berry Buck. We'll find a good portrait. I wonder if I have any. Probably don't. I have a handful of pictures that I've already picked out, but not many. No, I don't have any good bald ones. Oh wait, maybe I do. Hang on, I'm going to show you how. Let me see if this guy would work. No, he's not bald. Oh well. That's all right. So eventually we'll find a good portrait for him that is pretty cool. Okay, Rim Berry Buck. He's going to be a crazy guy who's ranting about the end of the world. He might be a good plot point for our first adventure, where he might have information about the Temple Keep, where some of the potential bad guys live, in our starter town in Paradise City. I'm thinking Paradise City should be a bit of a misnomer. It's fallen into some disrepair. It's got some monster attacks that maybe our low-level party will have to deal with at some point. The reason for the big ancient walls. So there's a lot of good material to ponder. We're at about the 2-hour mark. This is a pretty good spot to wrap it up. Sorry I didn't do the 6-hour marathon. We'll eventually do one, don't worry. Maryland's Mansion, I think we can add to our map real quick before we go. Let's do that. And markers. Let's see if we can find. We can either use this little house one. What do we have in monuments that might work? No, that's kind of cool. I kind of like the Notre Dame. We could just use the dragon for now. Kind of like the dragon. Let's use that. Okay. I'm gonna make it. How did you spell it? Maryland's Mansion. mansion was once a fine house, but now let's have it. Need some way to do it. Alan's mansion is the abode of an eccentric widow who covers her windows in black lace curtains, among other oddities. That's good. I like that. We'll keep that black. Okay. Let's find a good spot for this. I think maybe down here next to the gate so that they can get out fairly quickly to handle problems outside. Okay. That's good progress for one day. All right. I'll remember REO Speedwagon and add that to the list here in a minute. Let's go ahead and wrap things up. We covered a lot of ground. I will try not to do too much off of stream, except for some cleanup work and some little details here and there so that you can see what's going on and actually watch the video from point A to point Z. Let's put up the web address one more time. Yeah, if you want to follow along, take a look at our work and what we've done so far, you can get onto obsidianportal.com, go to Live Free or Die Barred. This is one of the campaigns. Check it out. Everything's public so that you can use some of the ideas for your own stuff. You can check out our forums and check out our blog if you want to talk to people or find some other inspirations or read some news articles and things like that. For those of you who are watching on Twitch right now, feel free to subscribe. We just got that unlocked for our affiliate status. We would really appreciate your support. If you can't do it right now, maybe do it. Consider it in the future. This video will appear in about a week on our YouTube channel. And you can watch it there in archive status if you're following along. This is episode 4, I think. Yes. Where we're talking about Metaplot. And I appreciate everybody showing up and hanging out and giving lots of great suggestions. We had a whole bunch. We're going to keep working on the world next time. We're going to continue to add things and start working on our starter adventure. Maybe talk about session 0 and getting your group together for the first time and making characters and some of that kind of stuff. The stuff that the players themselves are going to see right off the bat, and how important that stuff is to set the tone for your game. And we'll do some work on all kinds of stuff on the side too. So feel free to come by next time in 1 week, 11 a.m. in the morning Eastern time on our Twitch channel. We've also got, let's see what else is going on. We've got Monday night is T-Bug and the Dice Friends playing a game of Paranoia. They've got 3 games left, I think, before the end of their campaign. We're hosting that from the Loading Ready Run channel. That's at 8 p.m. Eastern time. Tuesday nights is Kalak Codes. He's got, I think, one more episode where he's finishing up his Pathfinder 2 character sheet, and then he's moving on, I think, to customizing sites on Obsidian Portal, so you can do more than just the default things. He's going to show you some CSS and some stuff like that. Vader Immortal Episode 1 from Dan's Player VR. Yep, check that one out. Dan Plays VR. Check that one out too. What else have we got? Check our social media, our Twitter, Facebook, and whatnot for other announcements and updates. And we'll keep you apprised of all the new stuff and any new scheduling that's happening. And we'll go for the 6-hour stream next time. But okay, thanks for joining us. Appreciate your support. And we will see you next time. Bye.